Hi, my name's Martin Butler and I'd like to welcome you to how to start your own t-shirt transfer printing business from home. Now, we've been doing this, my wife and I, since 2006, working from home, and we've built up our business and we've actually sold thousands and thousands of transfer printed t-shirts over the years. Now, obviously when we first started we made loads of mistakes. We didn't have any idea on how to start a business off, so we went online, we done searches in forums and stuff like that, probably like you've done too, and we found so much conflicting information, and as a result of that we sold inferior quality products, and also the materials and equipment we had, we wasted a lot of money on setting up procedures. So over the years we've gained quite a considerable knowledge in the transfer printing business, and this is information which we hope to pass on to you in this DVD course. Now, I'd just like to say that I'm not a professional actor. What you see is me actually talking to you without any script, so I may make the odd mistake and flood the few lines. I'll probably get all that out in the editing process, but if I don't, that just shows I'm a real person at the end of the day. So let's get you going now and show you how we make our money in the transfer printing business working from home. Okay then, in this section what I'd like to go through and explain to you is the different formats of t-shirt printing that are out there at the moment, and the reasons why I believe transfer printing is the easiest and far cheapest way to get into this business working from home. Well, you've got different types of printing. Obviously you've probably done a little bit of research and found out that there are different types of printing. Well, first of all, you've got screen printing. You've got direct to garment special printers that can print, vinyl printing, and you've also got painting on your t-shirts with inks and stencils. So let's take a look at screen printing, for example. Now, why is it not beneficial to start a screen printing business from home? Well, you can do, but the startup costs can be quite considerable, and they're not really suited for short runs because you have to make up a printing screen, and that screen is unique to each individual t-shirt. And not only that, if you're dealing with a multicolour design on a screen printed t-shirt, you can end up, well, you have to have one screen per colour. So if you've got a 3 or 4 colour image on your t-shirt, you have to have 3 or 4 different screens where you actually would have to place each screen on the t-shirt and put the colours on individually. So for example, if you only wanted one t-shirt with 4 or 5 colours, it is so labour intensive to create an image, you won't earn any money whatsoever. So those are the basic reasons why I would steer you away from screen printing as a beginner to get you in the t-shirt printing business for screen printing. Again, you've got direct to garment printing, again, which is ideal for short runs, but the downside with direct to garment printing is the actual cost of the printers, which run into thousands and thousands. So from the get-go you're going to have to spend a hell of a lot of money to get into that part of the business, and you can only print on one t-shirt at a time, and basically direct to garment printing is expensive to start off to buy the machinery, and it is a very slow procedure. Adding vinyl to t-shirts is again something you can actually do if you've got the equipment to, like your heat press and your vinyl cutter, which we'll go into a bit later on. But if you're using transfer printing as your main source of income, there's no reason at all why you can't use vinyl as well, and either do vinyl on its own or actually incorporate vinyl with your transfers. So that is again another possibility. So you can use vinyls as well if you've got the heat press and the cutter. Again, stenciling using acrylic paint or clothing paints is again another possibility, but again it's a very messy procedure. It's a one object at a time, you have to wait for them to dry, and as I said to you, it's a very slow process again. So again, although you can start a little home business in all the ones I'm telling you about, the reason why I choose transfer printing business is as follows. You don't need any special printer. We'll go into this a bit later on, obviously. You can buy cheap ink and a bulk ink setup to actually fit on most printers nowadays. so to keep the cost of the ink down. You can do one-off full colour prints on one t-shirt at no extra cost. So basically the image you see on the transfer paper, which you may have, someone sent you a photograph of, or you've got from the internet, it could be full colour. All you're doing is transferring that onto a transfer paper like you would do with any image on printer. And full colours don't cost any more. The more colours you have, it doesn't really matter. It's just the quality of your ink and the printer which decides how good the image is going to come out on the special transfer papers we use. Images are quick and easy to create, and providing you're using the right equipment and the right papers. So today's modern transfer papers are very, very flexible, and the quality lasts a very long time, as we've got t-shirts we printed within the last 4 or 5 years that have stood the test of time. And one final way of transferring images to a t-shirt is done by you outsourcing your images to a company that actually screen print your image onto a transfer or a release paper, and then they send the transfer or release paper back to you, and all you do then is just use that image which they've screen printed on a release paper onto your t-shirts, and you're basically getting a screen printed image on a transfer paper. Problem with that, especially over here in the UK, is it's quite a new system, and it is very, very expensive, because for every picture and every colour that you send to them, they have to create an individual frame, as you would do in the screen printing process, and actually screen print your images onto a release paper. So that costs a hell of a lot of money, so they're not really ideal for short runs. Although they're using the same inks that they do in the screen printing process, which are Plastisol inks, there's no way you can really start that at home at this moment in time, because it is too dear. So now let's take a look at the equipment you're going to need in your home printing transfer business. Okay, now the great thing about the t-shirt transfer printing business is that you've probably got some of the equipment you need already. And what I mean there is you've probably got yourself a home PC, you've probably got some editing software for either Photoshop or some sort of graphic software where you can manipulate pictures. You've probably already got a printer, so your main outlay is going to be a heat press and a craft cutter or some sort of cutter. Okay, let's first of all take a look at the computer. Well, over the years we've had many computers, we've upgraded over the years, and we're now running the latest version of Windows, although you can do this on the Mac as well, it doesn't really matter. So all I would say there is just make sure that your computer's up to date. You've got a graphics package maybe. You can do all the alterations you want in Adobe Photoshop. There's various levels of Adobe Photoshop. You don't need to know exactly how to do everything in Adobe Photoshop. There's certain things that you might find beneficial. Things like how to remove the background from an image, how to change the colours of an image, how to cut things and move things about in an image. Anything other than that, you can find specialists to do that sort of work, and there are websites out there where you can actually hire people to do these little work for you very, very cheaply. At the moment of me producing this DVD, one of the places that you can find these sorts of people is a website called Fiverr.com. Now at Fiverr.com everything costs $5, which if you're in the UK that is about, at this moment, exchange rate about £3.40, something like that. And what you basically do there is you go to Fiverr, got a search box on their website, and for example you would type in remove the background from an image. So you'll press search and then it will bring up loads of people offering to do that job for you, and you then go through them, and they've got a system on there where you can check how many people have had positive feedback. So you choose someone to do the job for you and hire them, and they will complete your work for you, as I said, for $5 or £3.40 or whatever the price is at the time. So a computer and some editing software is an essential, but you haven't got to be a wizard with Photoshop. There are ways to get your images altered, changed or whatever. Not only that, people may be sending you their own personal photographs. So all you would basically be doing would just be to resize them onto a sheet of paper, onto the size of the transfer paper, which we'll go into a little bit later on, and then printing out and then just pressing it onto your image. So basically you need a decent printer as well. When I say a decent printer, you don't really need a photo quality printer. Most of the images or pictures you will be displaying are basically going to be put on the t-shirt, and they're not going to be on photographic paper. So you don't need, this is a mistake I made right at the very beginning. I went out and spent a lot of money on a photo quality printer when the prints basically for a t-shirt don't necessitate image of that quality. So the printers we use is an Epson R8 1800. Although that model's been superseded now, I've actually used other Epson models, an Epson R800, I've used an Epson R200. And all I would suggest is that you actually find a printer which you're happy to use, that you can fit a bulk ink tank to, and that is a waste tank, so that the actual, when the printer does its cycles inside of cleaning cycles, it doesn't dump all the residual ink into the internal sponge pads inside the printer. It dumps the ink into a waste tank, and we just dispose of that ink and we just carry on repeating the process. We also, as I said, you have a bulk ink system set up on our printer, and again, very beneficial. We'll go through a bit later on the type of inks we use, and you will see that we spent a lot of money right at the beginning on high quality inks, thinking that that was the way to go, when basically now all we use is the cheapest inks that we can find. And over the many years and thousands of t-shirts we've printed, we've never had any lose quality, fade or run, and that again is down to the ink, and also the transfer paper technology is actually fantastic now, providing you're using the right transfer paper. You also need a heat press. Now again, in the very early days, one of the biggest problems we had, we started off printing mouse mats, so we had a heat press that we got from eBay, and it wasn't a branded name one, it was an imported one from the Far East, and as a result of that, it was fine. We thought no problems at all. It was printing mouse mats absolutely perfectly, and then about 6 months after that, we decided to go into the t-shirt printing business, and this is when we had our problems. No matter what we'd done, we tried various different papers, we tried various different temperature settings and durations of temperature settings. The problems we had was that the t-shirts wasn't fully taking, and as we peeled the backing papers off of the transfers, we was getting them lifting, curling up, and all sorts of things happening, to the point where we nearly gave up. And one final last ditch attempt was to actually buy an industry standard unit, what people were recommending, and spent for a whole lot more money. I think we paid initially £175 for our heat press, the copied one from the Far East, and we ended up spending £1,000 on the industry standard one. And as soon as we had that, all our problems were solved with regards to the transfer papers not taking to the t-shirts. And the whole reason why that was the heat press planten, the element basically, it wasn't evenly spread over the actual heating element, and as a result of that there was cold spots. So this is a thing which we never had a problem with when we was printing mouse mats, but over a larger area like a t-shirt, it became apparent that there was cold spots, and the temperature, which is critical, was affected by the inferior quality elements that are in the heat elements of the inferior imported heat presses. So we use a Stahl Hotronics clam press as one of the industry standard ones. There are obviously a few out there, and we have never had any problems with that. So don't cut corners and try to buy the cheap ones, is the message there, or you will be wasting your money. As far as cutters are concerned, again, you can cut the transfer papers out by hand if you don't want to spend out on money initially, but my recommendation is to get yourself a cutter because some patterns are intricate that you may be cutting out, and also when it comes to cutting out letters, if you're going to be using vinyl, you don't want to be cutting them letters and everything out by hand. Let the cutter do the work. And again, you can get cutters right up to a GX24 Roland, which cost a hell of a lot of money, which we have used and we've now sold. And the one we started off with is the one we've still got now, we're still actively using. It is a Graphtec Craft Robo. And although they don't make this model anymore, it's been superseded by the Silhouette Cameo. You can still buy them secondhand on eBay, or you could even get the Silhouette or Cameo Silhouette one, which is an A3 size cutter, whereas the Craft Robo is predominantly A4. So A4 paper is what we buy, the transfer paper, and all our t-shirts have been printed on A4. So if you're a bit hard up for cash and you want to start off small, then by all means go for something like the Craft Robo, because you can open up their print cut software and you can print the image from their software and also cut the image from their software. And then once you've got the image into the Craft Robo software, for example, you then put the outlines, the cut lines around it, and you then send it to the cutter. It then cuts it out, and then when you close that up, it saves it as a print and cut image. So all your images are then saved without you having to redo them again. So that is a Craft Robo. There are many other different types of cutters out there. You can use obviously which one you want. I'm just letting you know which ones we started off with, and we've never had any problems with it whatsoever. But they've now been superseded by the Silhouette, Cameo Silhouette, again, which is an A3 cutter. So in the next section, I'd like to run through why we use transfers and vinyls and tell you the actual ones that we use to give you the quality that you're going to need to make sure that your customers are satisfied.